Hello, Steve at 89. I wanted to do a spoiler-free review of Masters of the Universe Revelation, Episode 1, Power of Grayskull. I've already done some spoiler reviews, and it's very easy to get caught up in the story issues and the politics and everything, because the flaws with this show are not in the actual shows, it's not in the episodes, it's in the marketing, it's in the press, it's in the way Kevin Smith is dealing with the fan base, and it's in the sort of bigger decisions that were made and the sort of ideologies and intentions behind it. Those are where the criticisms are happening and where people are getting upset and reacting. They're all reacting to their own sort of issues and that, and it's a big mess. But the show itself really doesn't have very many of those elements in it at all. So I sort of just wanted to talk about it because I'm not sort of done talking about the show, and I'm probably going to do a review of each episode, spoiler and non-spoiler, because I just have a lot more to say. So I'm just going to keep this more to the production. Now, the images itself, because animation, that's the most important thing. The images, the designs are really good. They're faithful to the originals to some extent. You feel like you're looking at, this is the first episode, you feel like you're looking at the characters from the original show. They are kind of true to those designs. They're not exactly like those designs, but that's okay. They are their own toys. They're accurate to the new toys. They had to have their own toys, basically their own designs for their own toys and IP and everything, and I get that in their own merchandising. But they're very faithful to the original. You do feel like you're watching an episode of the original show. The first episode really is just a setup for the rest of the series. And the rest of the series is, spoiler, basically about Teela, and it's very much what people were saying. So they were right, it's all true. The series really is about Teela. It's more of a spin-off about Teela than it is about He-Man and a continuation of the original show. But for the first episode, they're very much doing an homage to the original show, and they're trying to do a continuation to that extent to lead you in before they basically change over to the real series. But it's done very well. It looks beautiful. Now, the animation is a bit inconsistent. Like the backgrounds, the locations, all this is really beautiful, and the light effects are really beautiful. When you see people walking through like forests or in environments where light is streaming through, it just looks really beautiful. It's really well done. But then you see some of the regular animation, it just comes across as really sharp and kind of cold and thin, and it kind of jars you after that. And then you get the 3D effects mostly for the vehicles, and that's really again jarring and doesn't blend. So you have these three sort of styles of animation or methods of animation in the show that do not gel very well, and they look like they're all done in different production companies in different like studios, and they just put it all together like different shows, and it doesn't really work on some level in that it calls attention to itself, and it kind of pulls me out of the animation. Now, whether that's because I'm not used to a lot of modern animation, I'm used to traditional animation, but I don't think that should be a factor. I think if that doesn't work for someone who isn't familiar with it, it's a fail. If you don't see it because you're used to it, I don't think that's really being successful with producing that. Now, the music is, I'm having trouble hearing it. Like, I keep trying to review the music, and it's like I don't even hear it. It just is just kind of inconsequential. It's not like the original show. It had a strong theme, and it had this music that really called attention to itself, and was really very charismatic, and you would sort of find yourself whistling it and walking around humming it, and it gets stuck in your head, and it really draws you back to those times and the feel of the shows. This show doesn't do that at all. Nothing about it draws attention to itself. Some people might say that's actually good because it's just supposed to enhance and be in the background, but background, it doesn't have to be background music. It can be part of the character, it can be part of the drama, it can enhance and sort of lift everything else rather than just sort of, I don't know, I'm not impressed by the music. I can't imagine buying the soundtrack. Now, the voice acting, Sarah Michelle Gellar is Buffy. She doesn't have she's a good actress and everything, but she doesn't have the vocal training and the skills to really disguise her voice as another character. So you just hear Buffy the whole time. It's just Buffy. So they really should have got another actress and had her just maybe in a smaller role that wasn't as important as Teela. Now, some of the other voice actors, like people are criticising Mark Hamill, saying he sounds just like the Joker as Skeletor. I never watched him as the Joker in that other series, so I'm not sure if that's true or not. But it doesn't sound like Skeletor. And Merman doesn't do the thing like he's gargling or whatever, that sort of sound he'd sort of make when he was talking. So some of it doesn't really match, and that's sort of the problem with the series as a whole, that a lot of the characters are out of character. Like, in some ways, you kind of feel in the beginning that they're sort of the originals, but then as soon as they're sort of pushed and tested, they start to react very differently from what we would expect the original characters to act. And some really, really glaring examples. I mean, the way He-Man acts towards Skeletor, the way the violence, the way that Teela acts. She's very selfish. She's not thinking of other people. She's just all about herself and her own emotions. And she has a tantrum at one point, which is epic. And Teela would never have acted like that, and she never would have gotten the position that she's getting, because we see in the show she's being promoted to Man-at-Arms, and she's being elevated because she's this great warrior, and you wouldn't have gotten to that role if you didn't have the level of maturity and empathy that she doesn't have in this that the original Teela did have. So there are things like that are really jarring and really out of place. And there's some story points I can't get into because of spoilers, involving the sorceress and her being tricked by some things she should have been able to see. And we have this battle against Grayskull, and He-Man acting very violently, and we sort of see, kind of in a way, what we've always wanted to see, this giant epic battle, but it's all squeezed into one episode. It's like they tried to put everything we always wanted to see into one episode and get it all out of the way so they can just dismantle and deconstruct and destroy and diminish all of those things that people loved in the series, so then they can get on to actually the real series, which is what they're setting up. This whole episode is just setting up the actual series, which is basically a Teela spin-off. So that's the negative. The positive is that it does look good, and like, it is enjoyable when you're watching it. It's only when you sort of when it starts to trigger sort of memories or your sort of awareness of the characters and the situations and the mythology of the original show that it sort of starts to sort of not work. So I'm trying to be nice and trying not to, go into any details, but that's basically it. The whole episode is set up. It very much was what we were told beforehand it was going to be. It's very much a Teela series from the second episode on. He-Man and Prince Adam aren't really seen again after the first episode. Like I said, it's all just setting up the universe, so we just see all the characters in that world just in this one sort of event, just so we can set up the rest of the series. So yeah, I think I'm done. I can't think of any other elements to talk about. I think that's it. It still isn't bad. It's not woke. It doesn't deserve the trashing it's getting, but because of the way it was marketed and presented, and the way Kevin's reacting to the fans, it's getting a lot of criticism and a lot of attacks, which just purely on superficial production levels it doesn't deserve. The story's not that bad. A lot of it makes sense. There's a lot of nods to characters and places and things that we wanted to see. But it's just not what we were promised. It's not a continuation of the He-Man show. It is a separate spin-off series about Teela, which is very different in tone and character, and very different in the story and the world. It's all very changed. It's very much its own show, which in its own right is fine, but not when you're expecting a continuation of He-Man. So that's basically the problem. And they did that to themselves. They didn't need to do that. They could have just said in the first place, it's a spin-off about Teela, it's going to be very different, it's going to be darker, blah, blah, blah. They could have set it up and it would have been received well. Instead, they marketed it, they bait and switched, and now a lot of the fans are turning. Some don't care because they've just seen it. They didn't come in with expectations. They sort of put those aside and just watched it for what it was. But other people couldn't do that because of how it was set up and just, the way they loved the original show. So we'll see how the second season drops. Apparently, how that hits, because will they fix all the issues, or are they just going to, double down on it and go even further and have the ending of the first season, really, which has been split into 2 seasons of 10 episodes, have been split into 2 seasons of 5 episodes. will they fix what they started? Is this the middle point and then it returns, or are they just going to keep going further and further away from the original? I think they're going to keep going further away. But some people are saying, no, they're going to fix it, they're going to bring this back, they're going to bring this back. At the end of the show, everything will be restored and it'll just be like it should be. And I'm like, I don't think they did all this just to go back to where it was at the start. I'm not seeing that happening. A lot of people are saying that's what's going to happen. But we'll see. I'm going to go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think. I'm probably going to review all the episodes as spoiler and non-spoiler, partly because there's so much to say and I don't want to do really long videos. So I'd rather do 2 or 3 short videos than one big, long, epic one. Because who's going to watch that? Okay.